Welcome to the latest episode of Platform Podcast. Today's guest is Cameron Talbott. I've been following Cameron skating for years. I've been a really big fan of his style, his trick vocabulary, and his spot choices ever since he was on Valo, which was a long time ago now because he's been riding for Rollerblade for quite a few years. He's on the pro team for them. He originally is from Montana, I think, but he's been living in San Francisco, or at least the Bay Area, for quite a few years now. So I want to talk to him about that, what inspired the move, what life's like there, because San Francisco seems like quite an intense place. It seems like there's quite a lot of madness, quite a lot going on. Also want to talk to him about being pro for Rollerblade and what that means, if he's able to sustain himself off it. I am pretty sure he worked as a bike messenger for a while, but I don't know if he's still doing that or if he's able to make his way via other means. He's also had an exceptional part out recently that was made by Ivan Narez called Bunkers, which was filmed exclusively on disused bunkers in San Francisco, or again, the Bay Area. So I want to talk to him about that because I absolutely loved it. I love concept pieces that just have a kind of a strong idea behind them and are really well executed. And that was exactly that. I want to find out if he's got any other sponsors other than Rollerblade. I'm pretty sure he was on Sick Urethane for a while, but I don't really think anything's going on with Sick anymore. And for some reason, I have it in my head that he might have been sponsored by Bloom as well for a period, but I might have got that mixed up. Either way, loads to talk about. Can't wait to get into it with him. Before that, I want to give a giant shout out to my Patreon supporters. They're listed on the screen now. The best way to support this channel is on Patreon, and you can do so for as little as £3 a month. That's enough of that, though. Cue the music. You look as if you're like in a professional studio. The lighting and everything is unreal. Like, is that just?
Oh, really?
Is that just like California sunshine?
Yeah, there's a huge window right here, and it's I got the blinds closed, but they're like open. But yeah, otherwise it'd just be like I'd have to get sunglasses.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
So what's been happening this weekend? Have you been out skating?
Yeah, I went skating yesterday up north in a place called Healdsburg. It's like about an hour drive north.
Okay.
Just a little skate park sesh, and then we went and hung out at the river for the day.
Oh, right. Yeah. Okay.
Getting some summer weather finally. It's been a long, wet winter here.
That's what I was going to ask, because like San Francisco is like a little bit further up the coast, so you guys do actually get it's not like typical Californian weather where it's basically like sunny and dry all year round. Like you guys do get some extreme weather at times. Yeah,
we do. Yeah, it's San Francisco is kind of funny. It's like its own little microclimate, so it's never really that hot and never really that cold.
Okay. I suppose like if you're right, if it's right by the coast as well, I imagine West Coast as well, you'd be getting like quite a lot of like wind and stuff like that. So yeah.
And we have the bay, so it's like we have water on three sides. And it's just it's like it'll be so Oakland's across the bridge, so it'll be like my neighborhood. I live way out by the open ocean, farthest west part of San Francisco.
Okay.
So it'll be like 62 here, you go downtown, 65 downtown, you cross the bridge to Oakland, it'll be like 73. It's just like as you go inland, it just gets warmer and warmer.
Yeah. Right. Yeah, that was one thing I noticed about the bunkers video as well. Like it just looked so like eerie and cinematic because you could just see all like the mist around you while you're skating, and I'm like, in some parts it just looks like it could start raining like any second now while you're like skating the spots. So
yeah, it's definitely like moist and a lot of mist. Like it won't be raining, but it'll be wet just because all the humidity and the moisture in the air just kind of bogs everything down, and kind of helps make San Francisco super beautiful in that way, because all the succulent plants and all the different type of vegetation that thrives off that moisture. So yeah, and I guess it's very unique. Like this morning I woke up, it was just super foggy, and it just broke off about an hour ago.
Okay.
And now it's perfectly sunny. And it'll probably roll in again around 7 o'clock tonight.
Right.
Yesterday was funny. It was like, I woke up here in the city, it was foggy and maybe like 50 degrees Fahrenheit, right? And I drove north about an hour and it was 94 degrees, and clear skies. And it's crazy, man.
I mean, yeah, like I've spoken to quite a few people in California that also talk to me about, like living down by the coast, especially like in Southern California, and then just traveling up to go like to a ski resort and ski. And they're like, oh, we've got all this covering of snow. It's like perfect conditions. And I'm like, it's so crazy that you live in a place that you can be at the beach in the morning and then like later that day be at a ski resort. Like that's wild to me. Yeah. So
totally. Yeah. You could like wake up, surf, head up to the mountain, snowboard, come back down, skate, like all in one day. It's pretty. That's how I really like California. It's just like such diverse landscape. It's like rivers, lakes, mountains, desert, everything. It's all here, and it's fairly accessible too. Just depends, I guess, where you're at.
Yeah, you're from. Am I right? I'm right in thinking you're from Montana originally. Is that right, or like that kind of area?
Yeah. I grew up in Montana, in Western Montana, which is the area that was like the Northern Rockies, the mountain range of the Rockies. So yeah, really extreme seasons, 4 seasons, hot summers, cold winters, roller coasters, spring and fall.
So what made you choose San Francisco in particular to stay? Because you've lived there for, it's got to be over a decade now, surely?
Yeah, so actually I was born here in San Francisco. And so I have kind of that connection here. One of my younger brothers has always been down here. My dad's side of the family's from this area. So I just kind of always had this connection, kind of gone back and forth. My mom moved me and my youngest brother, Connor, to Montana when I was 5 years old. So I essentially grew up in Montana, but bounced back and forth a lot with family and stuff, and just two completely different areas.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. There must be like quite a cultural difference between Montana, which I think of as a kind of like remote place with small towns and like really beautiful landscapes, to then quite a chaotic, like San Francisco's got a reputation for being, quite fast paced and a lot going on and quite a lot of craziness. So yeah,
absolutely. Montana, much more simple lifestyle. I think cows, I don't know if they still outnumber people there, but I know like Montana geographically is like the 4th largest state in America.
Right.
Montana itself, I think, just hit 1 million people in the entire state, like within this decade.
Okay.
So whereas like in the greater Bay Area, San Francisco, Oakland, San Jose is like millions of people, So, and San Francisco too is like really densely populated. It's only 7 by 7 miles. It's a really small city when you look at it in the map, but we're just packed in real tight. So yeah, a lot of humans.
Yeah, and just I feel like we get as British people, we get a distorted view of San Francisco because all you see is like the news things about like the drug problems or the homelessness problems or like the crime and stuff like that. And then obviously with consuming things like skate media and skateboarding media, it just makes it look like quite an intense place. But yeah.
It's definitely it's interesting how the media chooses to kind of like showcase a certain side. I mean, I guess that's kind of usually what they do in a lot of situations, but I mean, there's obviously issues, like definitely, but it's not as all over the place as one may think. I think the main thing with San Francisco is like you see a lot of like drug use, and there's a lot of noticeably kind of messed up things, homeless folk, like just it's all kind of in the epicenter. So it's like all like there's a neighborhood that's kind of known for a lot of like drug use and people roaming the streets with mental illness um and it's really close to like a very big touristy area being like Union Square and like the trolley cars.
Yeah, yeah.
Like Powell Station is where people get on to get on the trolleys and there's also like a lot of designer stores and stuff like that people like to visit when they come, from out of state or out of country. And that area just borders like a really gnarly part of San Francisco. So it kind of filters in. So I feel people like really get that, like they see that right out the gate.
Yeah.
Whereas like my hood's like, my big problem is like raccoons and coyotes out here.
Okay.
Yeah, it's like that's the big problem out here. But yeah, it has its ups and downs. It's a wild place for sure. Since the pandemic, like things have shifted and there's been a spike in crime and it's a whole thing, big political
Right.
thing.
No, yeah, I can appreciate that. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's I like it here. It's a beautiful city. I'm lucky to live by the ocean and have such a cool city to explore on my skates with all the hills and really just kind of the type of spots here really make you think about things more. It's not just like a standard rail or ledge. There's just like so many different things you can take in and just a really cool group of people that I get to share this place with on skates that, help me find these things and look at things differently.
Yeah, it is kind of, I was thinking about that earlier when I was like, right, what topics are we going to cover? And I was like, I can't think of a time when San Francisco ever had like a weak scene. And that's like, obviously quite like an extreme thing to say, but when you think of like other places or like other cities or countries, they have these moments in time where they're really popular and it feels like all the best skaters are coming out of that area or congregating in that area or, like moving there or whatever.
Yeah.
And then it goes in peaks and troughs and then you're like, oh, that city's kind of gone quiet. We don't really hear much from it. But San Francisco, I feel like in the entire time I've rollerbladed since like the mid-90s, there's just always been fresh talent coming out of there, new videos coming out of there. It doesn't feel like there's ever been a lull.
Yeah. Yeah, it's definitely, I mean, there's a lot of history here in skating, the first IMYTA was just right down here, right downtown, in the Embarcadero area. And then you have like, I feel like we have such a, we got people like Eric Garcia and, just like some of the older guys who've been around for a long time who are still involved and still get out and they're present and, they're huge driving force for like me and younger people and other people to kind of keep getting out and keep pushing it and just kind of like, keep the scene alive, I guess.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's, you have San Francisco, you have Oakland, like the greater Bay Area has like just a lot of really talented skaters and a lot of really good people who are just trying to push it. And we all kind of connect on different levels, even though we kind of, we're all in different areas, even though Oakland is like right across the bridge. Like I don't go there as much as you would think, I stick here in the city a lot. You kind of get sucked into your own area, even in the city. Sometimes like I get kind of pulled in my own neighborhood, like I skate with the guy here in my neighborhood. And then like Danny and Vasugi and a couple of homies, they live in another neighborhood a little further away. So we don't always connect as much as I'd like to, but there's just still so many pockets of bladers all over the city. And it's easier to like connect with them sometimes, like during the week, if you're just trying to get a session after work or,
yeah,
what the case may be. But yeah, the whole, like JSF, the whole history of skating in San Francisco and the greater Bay Area is just, yeah, it kind of speaks for itself,
It's wild. Yeah. I was just thinking back of like even going back to, like the early skate videos having Embarcadero, everyone's skating like the ledges and the gap and stuff there, and then Hubba's Hideout, and then obviously when like Pat Lennon started making videos as well, and they come up, and then there was like Monks and everything, and then they had, what was that distribution company?
Paradigm?
Was it Paradigm Distribution? Then there was another one as well that did like that distributed monks and did all the videos and stuff. I can't remember what it was called. I think it was Ezekiel that ran it. Was it
Gosh,
Empire? Maybe.
was it? I can't remember.
I think it might have been called Empire.
Arcia would know. He's got all these things dialed.
Yeah. Also, it's interesting you mentioned Danny Malm could be my top three favorite American skaters right now. Every time he brings something out, I'm just like, holy shit. Even his Instagram thing, he brought out an Instagram thing that was like, oh, stuff that's not going in sections, or I'm almost certainly referred to as throwaways. And there was clips in there, and I was like, if I had done that, I would be like exceptionally proud of that. And you're calling it a throw. And I was like, oh my God. Oh my, like, yeah.
Yeah, he is on an absolute tear. His whole Danny's always been an incredible skater. And he's, like all of us, has gone his own way, has had his own journey through life. And he just kind of like tapped into something in the last few years that's just like really remarkable to witness. The way he's pushing himself, the way he's thinking about skating, the level of excitement he has for skating, is just really, really, I feel very fortunate to be around it and to witness it firsthand. Cause like, I mean, I might be biased too, cause he's like probably one of my best friends, I see him all the time. But what he's doing right now is like, to me, just incredible. Like he's skating in a way that's like so unique to who he is, but also just like something that I think a lot of us haven't really seen, like he's got this like element of like, what's he going to do next? You just don't know.
Yeah.
And having him around is just so great on so many levels, and really hyped for him and proud of him, as far as he's come over the years. Like he'd be a good one for you to have on here, man. Like to pick his.
I asked him, he was having none of it. He already told
okay.
me.
He might even be mad I'm talking about him so much right now, but yeah, Danny's Danny, the Danimal. He's he's one of my favorite humans. And it's been, I've actually been doing a piece with, the last Rewired edit he had with them.
Yes.
So he edited that thing himself. He'd never done anything like that before. So he just like dove into that, got a lot of help from Taylor, like troubleshooting certain aspects of the editing program. And he bought a camera, and he's been just kind of like taking full control. And we've been working on a little piece that I'm pretty excited about. Like, he's completely filmed everything so far. And I mean, he intends to finish it and film and edit it all himself. But in that process, like, he's definitely pulled some different type of skating out of me, like, okay. I respect his, his view on skating. He knows what good skating looks like. He's even really good at filming. Like, he keeps surprising me. I think he surprises himself sometimes, but yeah, having him has been cool. I feel like he's really kind of pulling something kind of different out of me in a way, like kind of being like director guy.
Okay, that's quite interesting, because one of my favorite things about you is your spot selection. I'm always like, you always find, I feel like as I get older, just seeing someone do impressive tricks just isn't enough, because how many decades now have we been watching people do impressive stuff on skates? But yeah. I feel like when you see people tackle interesting environments or just find stuff that you're like, what made them look up there? What made them go for that? Like, yeah. Even in that bunkers thing, there was one like trick he did where I talked about it in a video last week, where you like dropped onto this skinny little ledge on one foot and then used it to pop off the wall. And I was like, most people wouldn't even look at that. They go, there's nothing there. Whereas you're like, I see a combo, and like stuff like that. I find like fast, like seeing someone's mind work and see them be like, just envisage what they can do on it. I love stuff like that. Yeah.
Yeah, that's the beauty of skating, there's like really no right or wrong way to do it. You put on your skates and you just kind of like navigate your environment on your skates, and like whatever feels right, like, is right. Like, who's to say it isn't? That's always what I've loved about skating. It's just like, it is whatever you make it. And just, living in this city too. And even where I grew up in Montana, like Montana is very mountainous and hilly, and the spots are like not ideal. So the transition coming over here to the Bay Area was like pretty ideal. It was just like, oh, these are like crusty spots like at home, but like on crazier levels, or like people's front doorsteps, or like, you know, like steep hills. Yeah, and like I said earlier, like the guys like get to share this city with on skates, like they all have like really unique perspectives on, you know, spots. Like we'll go to like Vasugi, and Danny and I'll go to a spot and skate it, and we could skate it in 3 entirely different ways, you know, and it would be a spot that's like maybe not what everyone might think is a spot, but yeah, that's I love finding that, you know, just you're on skates, like see what's possible.
So. Yeah, you mentioned. I've noticed that as well. A lot of like San Francisco videos spots seem to take place in basically people's proper, like as in literally people's homes, and that has got to add a whole other level of pressure to it, because there's a difference between like skating a handrail or a ledge where you're like, oh god, this is taking like an hour and I'm getting beat up, and like it turns into a mental battle. But when you've got the time constraint of someone literally noticing you on their front porch or whatever and being like, get the hell off my property, I'm phoning the police.
Oh yeah.
Then you're like, oh, I don't have a lot of time to like battle this spot. I need to figure this out or channel something now.
Yeah, absolutely. It's yeah, a whole nother, I don't know. I've learned to kind of like deal with it. And you pick and choose your battles, you know, you obviously there's certain neighborhoods you might not want to push your luck in, you know? But yeah, you start trying something, you're climbing around on someone's roof, like, you know, like they're not always very hyped to see you, you know, and it depends too. Because
funny that's weird.
Yeah. I had a pretty funny one probably like 2 weeks ago. Danny and I, Danny had found this spot, and it was this kind of like roof to like drop onto this like shed type thing that had like a little like double level drop. So it's like you roll this roof and then you drop onto this shed, and then you like bonk. It's kind of weird. Hard to explain. But you start out on this like garage roof, and Danny got his piece, and then I got up and I was like, I just want to like drop in on it. It just looks so fun, you know? And right when I got up there, this guy just like was just lost his mind, you know? And it was like, you just like, in that situation, it was like, oh, whatever. I was just kind of messing around for a phone clip. But like when you're really trying to like get something, like it definitely can be those like times where you're like, all right, I have to do this and get out of here. And then like, even when you land it, it's like, you can't really just sit around and like, you know, in some situations be like, oh, let me check it out. Or did I get it good? It's like, all right, we did that. We got to get out of here, because this dude's, you know, losing his mind, or, you know, cops are coming, or whatever.
That's what I was going to ask. Like, has it ever got to a situation where they're like, cool, we're phoning, because in the UK, well, especially in Scotland, someone will go, oh, we're phoning the police, and you go, cool, that means we've got a guaranteed hour. Like, yeah, phone it, like, we'll be fine. And even when the police show up, our police don't have guns. Our police don't like, don't. So they just show up and they're like, guys, like, can you just, what are you doing? Just go. Like, there's never any, you would have to be really unlucky for there to be actual repercussions.
That's more or less like here. Like we usually say like, oh, call SFPD, you know, because we know that like if they even show up, like they don't really do shit, you know. They're pretty, it's an interesting situation with the police here. Like after everything, like I don't even know if they know what they can do at this point. Like, but when it comes to skating, they just like, yeah, pretty non-existent. Usually it's the people. That's what I was saying earlier. It's like, you know, be aware of what neighborhood you choose to pick your battles in, because sometimes people might not be, you know, as easygoing or just going to yell at you, you know, maybe things will get physical. But yeah, it was funny. Last summer I was in New York. I've been working on this thing, and I was in New York with JP from Butter TV.
Okay. I remembered you guys were working on a project together. You've just reminded me of that. That's right. Yeah.
Yeah, we've been kind of etching away on something, like meeting up here and there. It's been fun. But yeah, I was in New York last summer, and there was like this like, the subway goes down underground, the stairs go down, there's like this overhang roof thing, and it was glass, so it's like see-through, right? And so there's like this out ledge, you grind the out ledge and then you drop into the glass thing, roll it and gap out. And I think I tried something. Yeah, I tried it and I landed it, but I wanted to clean it up. And NYPD was like right there, and Justin Braskow and JP were with me. And NYPD is a little bit of a different animal.
Okay.
SFPD is like whatever. NYPD is like, yo, what the fuck you doing? Like get the fuck off that roof, or I'm gonna fucking take you in. Like it's just like really like it was. Yes, I remember those guys were like, oh yeah, just it's whatever. And I'm so used to just like being like, oh yeah, we're getting kicked out. Like I mean, you got like 3 more tries, and I kind of wanted to climb up, and Justin's like, dude, don't do it, like just don't push these guys. And I waited. It was such a cool, unique spot, and I was like feeling it, and like you're in the moment and you're feeling it. And you're like, all right, I'm in it right now. Like I would hate to walk away from it, and so I actually ended up waiting a while, and then I jumped up there on my own. And I remember, I think I told JP, I was like, dude, if I get popped, like, will you bail me out? Like it's like, yeah. So, but it worked out. I got the clip, but I just remember thinking in that moment, like, oh yeah, I'm not in San Francisco anymore. Even in New York, like skating houses, like I stay in the Bronx when I stay in New York, and I've seen some spots at houses, but I'm just like, I'm not gonna push it.
Right.
Like,
okay. Right.
And even the guys out there, like, I know you skate houses back in SF, but dude, maybe not in the Bronx.
Not these people's houses. These people. Yeah. They'll defend their property. Yeah. I respect that. I love New York. I love the Bronx. Like that whole area is really cool. And yeah, but I'm curious to know what your moral standpoint on it is, because as I get older, like I'm going to be 40 this year, and like I make skate videos as well for like friends locally, and when they suggest a spot, and I'll be like, oh god, right, because I've got one friend that just loves dropping in roofs, and then he's like, I found this one, and it's like it'll be like a slated roof, and now like being a homeowner, I'm like, god, I know how much that costs to fix. And he's like, I'm just gonna drop in that, and you can hear like the slates rattling, and I'm like, oh, I don't feel good about this. Like I feel quite shitty about what we're doing to like that's someone's home. Like it's different when you're like, I don't know, gapping over like a set of stairs outside their house, or gapping from object to object in their porches. But I'm like, dude, you're literally fucking up the roof. Like you're
yeah. No, I definitely feel that. And even that spot I was telling you about from 2 weeks ago, like I went by there last week, and they had put like 2x4s on the shed to like basically skate stopped it, then like DIY skate stopped it. But yeah, I definitely feel that. Sometimes like depending on the place, like you can almost have an idea if it's like maybe a homeowner or just someone renting, like a lot of houses in San Francisco maybe they were houses at one time, but they've been divided into units or something. Usually in that case, it's like, okay, well, people are renting, and, not the best justification of it, but it's like, well, I guess the landlord will have to do it and not them themselves. And then it's like someone's personal property. I'm probably not sounding really good right now. I probably sound like just a little hellion. But yeah, you get so caught up in the moment, and you just are really feeling what you're looking at, and you just want to take the chance. And I can't really sit here and tell you with a straight face that it's like the best thing to do. Like maybe you kids at home like don't go skate houses, but I don't know, follow what you're feeling at the same time. Like,
I know what you mean. It's like the risk versus the reward thing. You're like, can I just, is this important enough to me in my head to do this? Can I justify it against what I also know is probably not the best thing? Like I used to be, when we get kicked out of spots, I'd be so defensive about it and like argue and try and get more time. And if someone was being a dick, be a dick back. And now it's like someone comes out and they're just like, can you move? And I'm like, yeah, cool. Like I'm not trying to like ruin your day. I'm not trying to make your life harder than it is. And even if they come out all guns blazing, being like, fuck you, giving it all the attitude, I'm just like, man, just calm down. We'll go. It's fine. Like, just, I don't, I'll probably just come back. Like, but I don't need to get into, I don't need to get into this like confrontation with you. And like, just a waste of time.
Like when people come out guns a blazing, sometimes you're just like, I don't know. It's hard to, like when people are really nice, sometimes people are like, okay, just like one more, just, don't fall and do something stupid, like sometimes people are nice. Sometimes people are just like, like I was in LA like a month ago skating a spot on the side of these like apartments, and the people, I think it was an apartment or a house. I think it was a house. I don't know. But these folks came out and they were like super nice, and they let me try like one more time. And then I'm like, one more time. Like, yeah, okay. And then one more time turned into like 5 more times. And I definitely pushed my luck, and I felt bad. It's like you kind of feel bad, but you're just so caught up in that moment, and you're just trying to like, connect the dots, like connect what your head is thinking and translate it through what your body can do. And you're just like, I don't know, maybe sometimes you don't always think about how kind of a punk ass you're being like in that moment. But like, yeah, the house skating thing, it's just, I think it's very unique to San Francisco, like growing up watching Pat Lennon do wild stuff, and Sean Colin, and even Eric Bailey had his time here in SF.
Yeah.
Watching those guys. Kevin Yee was probably one of my all-time favorites, San Francisco skaters. Just the way he skated the city was just, all those people I mentioned skated the city in their own way. But Kevin like had this way of like finding something where it was like no one thought anything was there, like he just had this very unique outlook, and this city and his mind meshed like very, very well, and he was able to create some amazing skating. So yeah.
I was talking to Eugen Ennen about Kevin Yee not that long ago, and we were saying how, because Eugen was saying, oh, he found his VG part really inspirational. And I was like, it's kind of weird, isn't it? How like some skaters make it and some don't. And I feel like Kevin Yee had like the section in VG22, he had bigger section, he had sponsors and stuff, but it just never quite progressed to like getting onto pro teams and stuff like that. Yeah. Whereas there were other skaters who you could argue had like similar styles or whatever, or similar attributes that did make it, and you're like, I wonder. And we're just kind of discussing how kind of strange a beast the rollerblading industry is, when you can see someone who's, you're like, but they like that person did, so it can't be for that reason, because he kind of looks like that. So you're like just trying to kind of measure it up in your head, like what went wrong in that instance. Yeah,
Kevin, I think he lived here in the city for a while, and I think he had some personal things going on, and I think that probably had an impact on his skating, essentially. And yeah, he eventually moved back to Minnesota, and I'm happy to see he's skating now. I think he just recovering from a knee injury right now of some sort. But yeah, it is interesting. Skating's I never really understand what's going on with skating. Like, I don't know what's cool, what's not. Like, just when I think I kind of have an idea, I have no fucking idea. And like, it's just, the trends and what's going on, what's good, what's not, who's making it, who's not. Like, I guess my personal take on it is like, I just never really had any expectations for skating outside of just like, connecting with people, like-minded people that enjoy skating, and just exploring the possibilities, and, gaining a sense of like self-accomplishment in those acts of exploring skating and what it is to me. And even growing up Montana, like no one really, Montana, I grew up on a dirt road, they paved that road when I was a freshman in high school. We had a good crew up there, but it was always kind of like, I felt like I was on the outside looking in, like it was like the West Coast and the East Coast, and Europe had its thing, but like there wasn't really a lot happening in like areas like Montana, like I did visit down here a lot when I was younger and connected with Victor and Yvonne and Vinny and those guys. And, during the very first beginning of hyphy.
Yeah.
Even when that happened, like, I didn't really realize that was a thing. Like, even getting in like my first skate video, I didn't even know what was happening. Even with like,
what was the first skate video you had clips in?
I think it was Sacrifice, which was a Casey Bagazi, Steve Kerr movie. And
I know the one.
Yeah, I had a Coming Up in Daily Bread.
I remember that as well. Yeah, because I remember when you used to have like the little, like the shorts, like spiky hair. Yeah, I remember.
Yeah, short blonde hair, and I guess my hair's still blonde, but yeah, like I didn't even really know what was going on in those moments. I just knew that, like, it's so funny how it's changed. Like back in those days, like you found yourself in a situation, people were filming or taking photos, and you applied yourself. You seized the moment or you didn't. It was like that was the moment and that was it. Now it's like you can film, anyone has like, like one of these guys to film anything at any time, and you can put it on the internet and anyone can see it. But like back then it was like you found yourself at the right place, the right time to be part of a video. And even in that, you would hope that whatever you did was good enough to make that video, and you'd have to wait for everything to get chopped up and put out. And with the Daily Bread thing, like it wasn't even on my radar. Like, I'm pretty sure like I admired the guys I was hanging out with at the time, the older guys like Casey Bagazi and Jeff Jackson and kind of those like Sacramento guys. They were all staying. They were, making movies and they were doing stuff. And I just remember I always wanted to skate because I wanted to walk around the apartment at night and feel like I tried, like they were looking at me, like giving me some respect, like,
right.
And
yeah.
It didn't matter. Like, and I remember that rail, I was like, oh, I got that. I was really feeling out kink rails that summer. I think I was like 15 or 16 years old, and I was learning just to hold on to kink rails. And it was like a down flat, and I think I did it like second try. I jumped on it once and kind of slid down and landed on the stair side. And then I just like did it, and it happened. And I remember Mike Graffina was the guy taking photos. He was taking photos for Daily Bread at the time. And he just goes, that's the next Coming Up. And I remember hearing it and I was like, yeah, all right. I'm just trying to walk around tonight and hope these guys are, hyped on me, these older guys. And, sure enough, like, that summer ended, I went back home to Montana. And I remember I came home and my mom, like, when people had the landline, I didn't have a cell phone. So people would call and be like, my mom, oh, can I leave a message? And she would write on a little sticky note or whatever, put it on my door, like, so-and-so called. And there was a note on the door. It's like, Justin Eisinger from Daily Bread magazine called, this is the number. Yeah. I was like, what the fuck? And I think I got through to him the next day, and he was like, hey, we got this really cool photo of you and we want to feature you in a Coming Up. And I was like, still like wouldn't believe it, yeah, I'll give you all the information, but I'm only gonna believe it when I actually have the magazine. And yeah, it happened. Actually, I saw the magazine at my high school at the time in the library. I convinced the librarian to carry Daily Bread, and they would get it and put it in that thing. And it was a pretty cool moment, like kids I grew up with were like, oh shit, dude, you're in the magazine. Yeah. Oh my God, it happened. It's like they weren't lying, a kid from Montana is in Daily Bread magazine,
Yeah. Also, that is wild. I've never heard of anyone being able to get a skate magazine stocked in their school library. That's a first. That's definitely a first.
Yeah. The librarian was super cool. Like, if you had, they had the books, and then they had like a magazine section, and like you could give recommendations of like, or like ideas of what magazine. And I'm pretty sure I pushed it pretty hard, and she's like, fuck, I'll finally throw this in there and get this kid off my back.
That's nuts. Yeah. Also, like having something in Daily Bread was no like small. They were very particular about who they put in that magazine, and like Angie Walton, female editor,
Mm-hmm.
owner of the magazine, they didn't feature that many women throughout the course of Daily Bread's history, which is kind of crazy. You would have thought she would have been pushing that more, but
Yeah.
and I think that is evident to like they were very particular. They wanted the best in there, and
Yeah.
if some women didn't happen to be the best, then they'd like Fabiola get in there, and you had like, but it was like you had to be like big time.
Yeah. Gosh, that's crazy. You know, when I think about that too, there's so many impactful women skaters during that time. You know, like I remember seeing them on TV skating ASA, and you know, Fabiola obviously was a huge one.
So I remember you had like Jenna Downing, who's won an insane amount of competitions, been world champion multiple times. Like,
yeah,
and I'm pretty sure she definitely never had an interview, and I'm almost certain she just never featured full stop, like in the magazine, like even like a one-page thing.
wow.
So
yeah, girls were killing it back then. I mean, they're still killing it now, but just back then, I specifically remember like some heavy hitters, and you know, it's wild. I never really thought about that aspect of it, but it's been a while since I've actually looked through some Daily Breads. I should every once in a while I go to someone's house and they have like a stack of Daily Breads. And
yeah.
I'm like, oh, okay, let's dig into that. You know, like I always like those little quotes. You know, they'd have quotes from the guys.
I loved like it was called Misinformation, and they had like the news segments, and it would basically be quoting Louis Zamora saying some embarrassing shit or something. Like, yeah, I loved stuff like that.
Yeah, it was cool. They give a little bit of the context of what it came from or the situation. You're just like, yeah, those type of things were really cool, especially for like younger kids like myself at the time, just like looking at skating as this thing, you know, that you wanted so desperately to be part of, you know, like and getting insight on your guys like through tangible material. Like the day of the tangible material is like so. I mean, what's happening now is really cool too. You know, you're getting to see people do their thing from every corner of the world, every age, you know, whatever. It's really, really cool. But I will say, like growing up in that time, just tangible material was like so sacred, you know. It was
or just like the excitement it generated, like the fact that you waited for it to come out, and when it came out, you were like, "Holy crap!" The new episode, like the new like issues it, and you'd see who's interviewed in it, and you're like, "Whoa!" Like look at that, and like the insane tricks they were doing or whatever. Whereas now it's even if someone releases like an unbelievable video in a week or two, it's just kind of disappears from people's consciousness. Yeah.
You catch like. Yeah, it's an interesting time, you know, like people hardly click links, you know, everything's kind of your content's consumed through just like scrolling, and it's just, you know, the way of the world, I guess, you know, that's just change is the only constant. And so, you know, we got to kind of be willing to adapt to the things that are changing around us. And I know a lot of guys do miss those old times, and, you know, but there's also a lot of really good things to come out of this new wave of thinking and content, you know? So,
yeah. Well, it's interesting you mentioned, because, like you said, people, I kind of feel like before, when you had these gatekeepers or these just little pockets of industry that decided, you know, they brought out the videos or the magazines and they decided what was cool and dictated, you know, who kind of made it and who didn't or whatever. Whereas now it's so decentralized that you've got a guy from Israel who's now got like like Bobby Spazov's got like 4 pro skates, whereas back in that era he wouldn't have made it, because unless he's regularly traveling to America and showing up at events or hanging out with the in fashion filmers at the time, he's not making it. He can make all the videos he wants back in his home country. No one's seeing them, and sponsors they're not picking them up. Whereas now, it's like he's created his own basically brand and like media thing. And there's lots of other skaters as well, like that are managing to do it all over the world. But he was just like an example that popped to mind.
Great example.
That wasn't possible 10, 15, that wasn't possible like 15, 20 years ago. Did not matter how good you were. Like you got someone like Ryan Arnold. Ryan Arnold lives in Australia, like the middle of like the other side of the country. Regularly referenced as an exceptional street skater, has beat Chris Haffey and stuff at the X Games, like won major events, never turn pro.
Yeah.
Because it's too expensive for brands. He's too far away. It's just a step too far. Mm-hmm. Whereas now we're in this era where it feels like a wider scope of people have the opportunity to actually get somewhere with it.
Yeah, like everybody's kind of like in full control of how they choose to put themselves out there. You're not solely relying on kind of like what you mentioned earlier, like being in the right place at the right time and being around the right people or the right crowd to like get yourself out there. Like, so in Bobby's situation, like he has this unique circumstance where it's like you can, you know, he'll go out to the skate park and film like a line, right? And it just like he'd post it and it just takes off, you know, like it's pretty cool, like modern technology, and everyone kind of has like a little pocket computer, you know, camera, you know, and they can do whatever they want with it. And I think it's like anything, there's good and bad. Like, I think it's great to allow people who really do deserve a chance and aren't necessarily around the resources to like help build them, so they can in turn build themselves by, you know, taking the initiative to put themselves out there because they're fully in control of their content. But like you were mentioned earlier, the other side of that is like people put in a lot of time and energy into certain projects, and they can easily just kind of like fall into the whole thing and just not be as appreciated as, you know, when a new Mind Game video came out, you know, or a new VC came out. Those were just like, you would watch, you know, like burn up your VCR watching these videos, you know, like waiting for the next one to come. But now it's like, you know, I get home in the morning from walking the dog and I'll scroll through and it's like, what's happening? You know, like who's doing what? It's interesting. It's it's an interesting thing.
I know what you mean. There's a whole scope of like good and bad in it. Like another example is I'll see someone's section and I'll watch it like I'll see some that had like a profound impact on me and I'm like, God, that was really inspiring. And I'll watch it like 10, 20 times and then forget about it for a little bit. And just I have this like just idle curiosity. I'm like, I wonder how it's doing now. And I'll check back and I'm like, less than 5,000 people watched it. I'm like, I think that might be one of my favorite sections I've seen this year, and less than 5,000 people have viewed that. I'm like,
yeah,
how is that? And like, I'll start like promoting it and be like, everyone needs to watch. And then I'll check back in another few months and I'm like, only another 1,000 people have watched it. What that? Why? This thing's incredible. More people need to see this. What is going? Yeah. So
yeah, it's just the way of the world, you know, like it's, like I said, it's like change is the only constant, you know, and people don't really put DVDs in the thing anymore. And nowadays, even more, people hardly click links, you know, it's just kind of all through social media. And yeah, it's interesting. I still feel like the need for full parts is a necessity.
Definitely.
It helps validate people's place in our community and how people, whatever regard they hold them in, like that's, and also it's like you can put out a part and then you can share to like clips on IG, you know, to continue to like carry the, you know, hype of that part, you know, as that part's released. And but it's funny too, it's like sometimes someone will make an edit, put up, you know, 3, 4, 5 months into creating a piece of awesome art, and it'll get like 5,000 views, and then you take one clip from that edit and you put it out and it'll get like 50,000 views. Yeah. It's crazy. Like I said, I never really know what's going on. Like I don't know what's working or what's not, but I'm along for the ride and it's been fun, and definitely curious to see how things evolve over the next few years with, you know, with media and content. And I think people are also getting a little more creative in the way they put themselves out there. It's not just so like cut and dry these days. Like people are trying to, and that's the thing too, is like, if you're going to be like putting yourself out there on the regular, like you really have to like make it interesting. And that alone can be very exhausting. You know, you're constantly trying to like up the bar. So it's like when you had video parts, like you were like, you know, like they had the first Mind Game video and then they had like another year to film to give you something else to blow your mind. if you're posting every other day, like you got like 48 hours to like give me something good to chew on, or I'm going to start to kind of like not be as interested, you know, not me personally, but just in general, like how people look. And so it's,
I do. Yeah. I know what I definitely wonder about that, because you've got people like Ilya Savison, for example, who's always coming out with these little like quirky like things where he's skating on keyboards or skating on like office chairs, something like that. And I'm like,
yeah,
this must take up every waking minute of your life, like coming up with these concepts and then executing them, because I feel like he has like a new one out like a couple of times a week. And I'm like, that has got to be exotic.
It takes a special person to really devote their time and energy and to just put yourself out there that way. You know, not everyone I think is comfortable or willing to just put themselves out like that. And just like, it definitely takes a bit of courage, you know, to just kind of like fully be yourself, like whatever it is you're into. Like he's obviously a really, really good skater, incredibly talented, but then he's got this other aspect where he's incorporating these comedic skits and ideas and skating through chicken coops on like rails nailed in ice or something, you know, like and looking, you know, just wild stuff. So he's got his formula. And then you have people like Nils, who's like a little more I don't want to say it, not that's,
I do know what you mean. It's like his approach seems a lot more formal and like athlete. Like he's like, this is what I do. This is how I prepare. This is how I take care of my body. This is how I approach a trick to like eliminate as much risk as possible. And I feel like he breaks it down in a way that you would expect a professional athlete to like do, like if
exactly
as if like it was like an actual TV show and someone went, how do you survive like skating these drop rails? And he's like, this is how I don't kill myself. Like,
this is what I do to recover. This is what I do in off season, like kind of giving, you know, that type of insight. And then, you know, and then there's just like a lot of different people doing a lot of different things on social media and having success, you know. And then you have like some guys who like Alex, you know, like Broskow, like he'll post something like maybe every few months. And of course it's like, he's the GOAT, you know? So it's like, everyone's just like all eyes, like what's, you know, so everyone's got their own formula, and, you know, whatever works, and whatever you're comfortable with doing. Like, and that's also the beauty of like the social media era, is like, it is whatever you want to make it. You're in complete control, you know, like, and that, I think it makes it a little easier to be, like if you're sponsored or there's a company supporting you, like you can easily like create content and then just like tag them. And it's like, or now you can do the, collaboration thing.
Yeah.
So it's like, whereas like when I was younger, like when I first got on rollerblade, I remember I would just send footage over to Tom, like Dropbox stuff, and they would put it on social media, which now kind of transitioned into more like, we want you to build yourself on social media. And then in building yourself, the connection between you and us will be obvious, you know?
Right.
So
that's what I was going to ask. You've obviously been riding for Rollerblade for a long time. Do they have like, what's the expectations? Like you obviously have a contract with them because you're like on the pro team, but do they have like requirements of you that like, I don't know, you have to post like a certain amount, or you have to like release a certain amount, or you have to do that? Like, do you have like monthly or yearly things, like expectations that they've set for you?
Yeah. So, you know, like I think ideally Tom would like us to post like once a week or once every 2 weeks and tag Rollerblade and blank. And then on top of that, like there's also just like providing feedback on new products, trying to like blank now is kind of this, blank's been around, you know, it was always kind of like this sub brand of Rollerblade that, you know, you'd buy a pair of solos and you'd get blank liners and blank frames. It's like the stock brand. And Tom has kind of tried to, this last couple of years, has made it its own thing, you know? And in that process, there was a lot of testing parts and providing feedback and seeing what works and what doesn't work. And we're still doing a lot of that. It's like a huge process. But yeah, that's part of, I guess, being on the team, like your obligation to take the time to dig into these and provide feedback, which is cool. It makes you feel like you're part of something, you know, when you get to experience that. And then, yeah, the posting thing is a thing, and just being able to show up on trips. You know, we do a couple trips every year, or like individual trips. Like, let's say Tony wants to go to the Bashi Pope, and, you know, like, I'm going to go, and then you go on the trip and obviously skate in the contest and maybe like get some side clips and tag blank and rollerblade. Like, it's pretty, you know, straightforward stuff, like things that most people would expect, you know, as far as like your responsibilities of being part of that company.
Okay. All right. I feel like I feel like with rollerblade, it's kind of split off into two camps. There's like the European camp with like Maxime Junod and Sven Bokhurst and stuff like that doing their thing. And then I feel like you guys are very much separate doing your thing, because the American team doesn't really come to Europe or like ever, because they don't ever really like do like winter class trips or anything like that. And I know like none of the guys are really that big on competing in contests, so they wouldn't come over for like fees and stuff like that. So it feels like, yeah, because you guys do trips, but they feel like very much like domestic trips. Like you've done SF, New York, you did, what was it? Was it Louisiana? Or?
We did Phoenix, Arizona, we did LA, we went to Montana too. We did that.
New Orleans. There was New Orleans as well. Is that right?
No, we haven't done New Orleans. I think Sean.
Oh, that was a metro. I think that was like the free skate thing. Yeah.
Yeah, with Nicholas Swan and Keen. Yeah. They did New Orleans, and but we've done a couple random ones. Sean and I have done random trips. Like, I noticed, like, since blank has become like a thing, we've done, you know, every year we at least have one trip. It's usually like we do one trip where we all go somewhere and create something for a few days. And then during the year, maybe we do our own thing, you know, like I was saying, someone wants to go to a contest, maybe they go do that. Or like maybe Sean wants to go here and film with this person. And then at the end of the year, we generally all meet up again at Blade Cup and just kind of have that as like kind of the end of the year thing. As, you know, Blade Cup's kind of like, to me, always marks the end of the year, because it's like after that, winter starts to kick in and things start to slow down, and people kind of shift into more of a dormant mode and less skating and more chilling. So,
well, Sean just disappears up to the mountain. He's in snowboard mode. So he's like, I'm done with rollerblading for the year. It's snowboard.
Yeah. Day. Sean loves the snowboard. You know, I snowboarded a lot in Montana growing up. I've been snowboarding longer than I've been rollerblading, but for me to get to the mountain from San Francisco is like, it's a trek. Like, what I'll do is I'll leave here at like 4 a.m. and from SF, and I'll drive up to El Dorado Hills to our buddy Derbs. He has the Derbs Ranch. You ever?
Oh yeah. The like outdoor skate facility thing. Yep.
Yeah, Mike Derbs. Yeah, he's the man. And so I'll go up there and jump in with him and Keen, and then from there it's like another hour and a half up the mountain, and, you know, and then I go up, ride all day, I come back, and it's like I leave my house at 4 a.m. and then I get back to my house at like 10. You know, it's almost like a literally full day. So,
yeah, you need to be dedicated. Yeah, you need to be like, yeah, I'm committing to this. Yeah.
So it's a little harder for me, but for Sean, it's much more accessible, and he just like, he's so good at riding. And like California compared to Montana, like the mountains in Montana, like we don't have as many terrain parks as like California does. California has like these terrain parks. So it's like, I kind of grew up just riding powder and just ripping through the trees and, you know, doing whatever. And Sean had more access to like, you know, terrain parks and, you know, these like rails and boxes. And
yeah,
I hadn't really messed with that too much. I kind of started dabbling with it a little bit. A few times I went with Sean, but yeah, just two totally different types of terrain, Montana and Tahoe area. But yeah, Sean rips. He loves to take that time as well to like just tap out of skating. And
I've heard Tom's like tried to actively discourage him from snowboarding, and he's been like, it's going to mess up your knees. You're going to like stay off the board. Please stay off the board. But
I think Tom, you know, and Tom has his thing too, though. He mountain bikes like crazy, you know, like he's always like, those two are funny. Tom and Sean have known each other so long. It's a funny dynamic, you know, like those two, like, Yeah, interesting guys, those guys.
What does that mean?
They're funny, man. Like just the dynamic of the two of them, like they've been working together so long, and Sean's been part of some really a lot of changes in rollerblade, like he was on when like I think Sizemore and Rob G and like, the kind of the older.
He got on literally. They sacked Julian Ba, and then like Sean Keane was like the next pickup. He was like the next guy on. So that was a long time ago. Yeah.
Yeah. And so Sean, she's been on for a long time, seen a lot of changes, been part of a lot of projects. I remember he was on this like Discovery Channel thing where he did the moving wall ride. Do you remember that? I think it was on TV. There's a, like a moving truck, like a big box moving truck.
Yeah.
So like they put like a ramp, like here, and then the moving truck came like this. So it's like ramp and the moving truck, and he goes up the ramp and wall rides as the truck's driving by. It's like some kind of physics thing they were testing.
It does sound familiar now that you're describing it.
Yeah. I have to find like the link or something, but yeah, that's like just kind of, the different things Rollerblade gets involved with. And Sean's been around through all of that. And, there was also a time when, Sean really likes the solo skate, and they discontinued the solo skate. And then it was just the back. And I know Sean was really disappointed, and he's just been along for like such a roller coaster ride. And like through that, like him and Tom have, made it work, over all those years. Like I'm hyped that Sean's just still involved, when I think there are times where it looked like who knows what was going to happen.
Yeah.
So,
I remember on his Jumpstreet, he was like, basically, if I can't skate this skate anymore, I'm going to have to go elsewhere. Like he's like, I would rather skate something I enjoy than skate something I don't, just to be sponsored. And then thankfully it worked out, and he got something else. But yeah, I'm curious to know what Tom's like as like a kind of TM to you guys, or like what your relationships with like, because Tom seems like quite a kind of, I mean, I can spot a fellow goofy nerd a mile away, and I feel like Tom's quite a
yeah, he's a goofball for sure. I mean, he has his history in skating. I mean, all those of us that have been in a while know Tom Heiser and his role, and then also his involvement with like the early K2 skates and the designing, and Atlanta and Andy Cruz, and just like that whole, he's deeply rooted in skating. And Tom working for Rollerblade, like he's chill, like he it's like an interesting balance, because it's like, Rollerblade is a company that's very much, it's not like Mesmer or them, it's like a big company.
Yeah, there's higher ups to answer to. Yeah,
absolutely. There's a lot of moving pieces and a lot of things to like sort out before just like putting something out or like making a decision. And I think Tom is like, he understands us on kind of a ground level, because he was a skater and he understands like skaters. He was also a skater when he was like making money off of skating, like living down in Southern California, making thousands a month, being able to live off skating. But now things have changed. And I think like, he genuinely, he wants the best for us, but he can only help us as much as the industry, like however good the industry is doing is a reflection of like how hooked up our year will be or not. Every year depends on sales, and and Rollerblade's a company that's just like boom, 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 looking at all these different aspects and numbers and connecting the dots, and got all these people to do all these different things. And Tom, I think, does a good job of playing like, businessman, like RB business guy, but also being able to kind of like understand us on our level, which is like not as businessy. We're just skaters. We're just trying to skate. We don't always understand the ins and outs of a company as big as Rollerblade. And so Tom, I think, is a good bridge between us and kind of more of the corporate part of Rollerblade, and that's what I think Blank is like, trying to be like this thing that's kind of its own thing. Obviously it's part of Rollerblade. We have a lot of the benefits that Rollerblade offers and, molds and, financial backing. They do really well with their sales and rec. And, you go to any sporting goods store here and they got rollerblade rec skates in it, like they do very well. So we're able to, kind of just, I don't want to say piggyback, but like that helps us. That helps blank grow, because we are part of rollerblade. And but yeah, Tom, he's funny on trips. He's definitely a goofball. Like it's funny because like when you're talking to him on the phone and like getting ready for these trips, he's like, all right, bro, we gotta dial this in, who's shooting what do we itinerary, like he kind of tries to like dial it in. It's that professional side of him. And then we get on the trip and this fool's just like so like loosey goosey, like cutting loose. It's like he checked out of work too, and he's on the trip. So he comes and he's the best to have on the trips because he dials everything in, like the rental car, the Airbnb, like all these little things that like, we don't have to worry about. And he makes it easier, make sure the fridge is stocked. And like, he's doing all these, like he plays dad, like he kind of like, whereas like when we're not with him, like it still works out. But I think we realize like, damn, like Papa Tom.
Yeah, like crap. Really, I need to sort all this out for myself. This is ridiculous.
Yeah, we gotta be adults and like,
What do you mean we don't know how we're getting from the airport to the accommodation? What? Why is what? We need. Oh, right. Okay. Right.
Yeah, it's like so he plays his role. He makes things easier for us. Like he does his best to, make sure that we're heard and, our concerns on products and the way that things are going are heard. And I don't think it's an easy job for him. He sounds like he has a lot on his plate between managing us and blank and, other roles he has at Rollerblade with, the greater part of the company. Like, and then he's a family man and, he's a busy guy, but he makes it work for us. And obviously super grateful for him. Like I'm extremely grateful. Like he reached out to me and got me on Rollerblade, like part of it was a little Sean. Like I always would talk with Sean about stuff, but I was on Valo at the time, but just him reaching out to me. Like I remember I made an edit years ago and he hit me up on the side and I was like, oh shit, Tom Heiser, like if you ever want to try, I know you're on Valo, but if you're ever curious or this, that, or the other, like, let me know, send you some skates. And I was like flattered, but I was still like exploring what Valo was to me, and still, yeah, eventually I obviously went to Rollerblade. That was kind of a crazy story how that happened. It's like I don't know if you want me to get into that, but
yeah, go for it. I remember on Jumpstreet you saying like, because obviously Valo had a lot of people on it, and I remember you saying like you just didn't think your voice would ever be heard because obviously they've got their pro team and their AM team and like you were a lot further down the list. But
yeah,
I
guess like so. Remember Shred to Your Dead, obviously.
Yeah,
skate park. So I remember Vic hit me up. I think Yvonne or Vic or Eric. I've known Bailey a long time. He grew up south of me in Boise.
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah,
he would come up for ASA contests and stuff, and I'd always see him around back when he had short blonde spiky hair and like a puka shell necklace and like a red Honda Civic. And I remember, just anyway, that was a long time ago, but these guys were coming through and I think Victor hit me up and was like, hey dude, like we're traveling through Oregon. We're going to make our way to like Eastern Washington and then into Idaho. You should come hang out, come camp, skate. So at the time I was in Montana and me and Brandon Mateer.
Yep.
Bruce Matler.
I remember Brandon Mateer. Yeah, he's still skating. I saw clips of him not that long ago.
He'll always put on the skates, I'm sure. And he's, doing it. He lived in Montana for a while. His older brother lives in Missoula and he runs the Poverello Center in Missoula, which is like a homeless shelter, essentially, like homeless housing. So he moved out to Montana and lived there for like 3-4 years. And during that time, he was during the time those guys hit me up, Brandon was there. So me and Brandon, and I think Josh Hayes and somebody else, a couple other people drove down to Idaho to meet everyone, but I didn't realize the full extent once again, you know, like, I don't know how, it's just like, wow, okay. Like you said, a couple of you guys are hanging and skating, and this is before you know, I didn't have IG or I hardly got on Facebook. So it's like, you're not looking at people's stories and be like, oh, they're here, like tracking them, you know?
Yeah.
Show up and it's just like, you know, Chris and Jeff and Tori was there, and just like all the best of the best, you know, just casually ripping skate parks through the Northwest and camping and acting like fools, you know. And I was like, oh shit. So we met up down there in Idaho and had a good time and skated, pushed myself. And you know, I came back, and I think it was like a month after I had gone on that trip. John was there. I think John was there too. But Julio emailed me and was like, hey, you know, like, love what you did on the trip. You know, you were ripping it. The guys love you. Da 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 da. Like, was wondering if you'd want to be on. It was like the AM team or something. And I was like, what? Like, really? Yeah, you know, like I remember being super excited. Like my roommate Justin Barr at the time was like, dude, like, what the fuck? And he's like, fucking do it. And I was just like, I think I called Victor and I was like,
sorry, John Julio, legend of the sport. I've got no interest in skating for your brand. Sorry, I just no, like, yeah, exactly, yeah.
So I told, I think I called Vic, and he's like, yeah, dude. He's like, or no, I think Vic even told me like, check your email. You know, I was like, ah, shit. So yeah, of course, I was like fucking flattered and accepted, and he sent me some skates right away, and I just made like a first day on the skates edit and made a couple more parts that followed that, and it was really cool, you know. And it was in the beginning, it was like, hey, you know, send photos and clips, you know, we'll put you on the website. And there was like, you go on the website and there was like the pro team, the AM team, and you know, my picture was there, and there were like little links to the videos I'd done, and you just felt there was like a sense of involvement that I really was excited about. You know, I felt part of something in a way that I've never been part of something as far as like the industry and skating went. And so yeah, I just rode that for a few years, and over the years I remember talking to Sean here and there, and we would go on, I would see Sean on these Northwest Shred tours that go through Oregon and Washington. And he'd kind of talk about rollerblade. And I also ended up getting, you know, Heiser reached out during that time too about, you know, if you ever want to try the skates. And I know I'm rambling right now, but essentially finally I was like, you know what, like it's been like, I think it was like 4 years on Valo. And I was like, I kind of felt like it also shifted, like Dean Coward and all those guys, like the Strange Creatures kind of like took over, and they were asking, you know, provide clips, Maneuver Monday. And, you know, but it just kind of like died out. Like, and I don't think it was anything personal or anybody's fault. It was just kind of the way it evolved. And like John kind of, I don't know. I didn't really feel what I was feeling when I first got on, and just kind of had shifted in a different direction. And I realized that like, I think this is it. You know, I think this is probably going to be it with these guys. Like, I'll probably just get the tools I need to get out and skate every day and maybe catch a trip or two. And I just didn't see it growing beyond that. And don't get me wrong, I was grateful for all that John did, and still am, you know, it was a huge stepping stone. But anyway, I was like, all I really would like to do is travel more, you know, and just kind of be part of something. And Tom seemed to always be hyped on me. And then I talked to Sean, and I was like, I'm going to do this, you know, I think I'm going to do this. And so Heisey sent me some skates, some White Troopers, and I would work all spring, summer, and part of fall in Montana. And then in the fall, like late fall, I would come down here. I would go up north and work on the farm, you know, during the harvest. And
right. We're talking weed farms, right? Okay, got you.
Yeah, which has changed a lot now because they don't really do it the same way they do nowadays. Now that it's recreational, like those type of situations aren't as, you know, prevalent. So anyway, I would go down and work on a farm. And I remember I skated the skates a little bit. And before I fully committed to rollerblade, I needed to get off Valo. And so I had made the decision like, okay, I'm going to quit Valo, and I would have loved to. And it was leading up, Blade Cup was happening, right?
Right.
I was up north for like 3 weeks on this fucking farm, no service. And I was trying to get a hold of John Julio because I really wanted, I was going to quit. And so every morning I would go down 2 miles down this switchback old dirt road. And I go to this little spot. It was just a random spot where like other people on the farm knew to get service for whatever it was like a little hot spot in the middle of the mountain. Right. So I go down there and I'd call John and he wouldn't pick up. So I'd text him. And I was like, dang, I can't get through this guy. And then I remember like maybe the third day I went down there and he responded to me and he's like, yo, dude, like I think he was in like Germany or something. I'm in Germany, like everything all good. I saw you've been trying to get at me a bunch. And I was like, yeah, everything's cool. Like, I just really need to talk to you. And I'd prefer to do it over the phone, And so he's like, yeah, no worries. So we set up a little time and went down to the little bit of the mountain and called him and basically said, hey, like I'm grateful for my experience and time with you and grateful for all you did. You believed in me, this kid from Montana, you gave a shot, but I feel like it's time for me to move on and explore other things. And he's like, oh, what's going on? I was like, I'm gonna go skate for Rollerblade. And then I remember he goes, oh, he's like, Tom got another one, huh? That's what he said, because he in reference to Sean. And it was such a relief. And another thing he said, he goes, he's like, this, that, and the other. He's like, and respect. I'm sure that took a lot of cojones to call and tell me this. And I'm just thinking, yeah, I'm pretty much calling my childhood hero to say, hey, I don't want to be on your skate team anymore.
Yeah.
So yeah. And then a week later, I got off the mountain. I headed down to San Francisco. I had these solos and I was like, Tom was like, hey, you want me to get you a ticket and fly you to Blade Cup? And I was like, I was so used to doing things on my own. I wasn't even, the hookup and the way Rollerblade operated wasn't even on my radar. I was just like, I'll get down there, this is rollerblading. And so I get down there and these guys have like an Airbnb and are filming a thing in LA with Lonnie Gallegos. And I remember
that. Yeah.
Yeah. And that was my first, interaction and involvement with them. And from there, it was just like, okay, this is cool. Like I got a good taste of this. And I was really hyped and I was just excited to do more. And I went back to Montana and it wasn't too much longer before I came back. I just moved back down to San Francisco. And I think moving here helped me get to where I am now, which I don't know if that's anything, but it's like,
I know what you mean.
Like,
yeah.
These guys down here really, I wouldn't have been, I don't know if I stayed in Montana, I don't think I would be as involved with skating as I am at this point in my life. I think I would probably, I would transition things. And so, yeah, maybe it wasn't as cool of a story as I thought. It's just like, I was basically hanging out on a weed farm, trying to get a hold of John Julio and finally did. And then got off the weed farm and went down to LA and hung out with Tom. And I think I told Tom and he laughed, man. But he was hyped and it worked well. And he's been, the thing with Rollerblade and Tom is like, I feel like he's always met me halfway, whatever I put out, he's willing to reciprocate, like he's willing to like meet me in the middle. And I feel like my efforts have been rewarded. However, he, in any way that's possible, given a budget or time or whatever, like, yeah. He's been really fair, and for someone like me who never really expected to get a lot out of rollerblading, other than to make some good friends and break a sweat and maybe feel a little younger than I actually am.
Yeah.
He's been rad. So
you feel like your efforts are being appreciated. Yeah. It's quite funny you mentioned that, like going down to Blaine Cup. I find this so, I mean, obviously it's just a reality and there's nothing we can do about it, but I find it so kind of darkly funny that a skater will save up money, like you like save up money, work your ass off, and then spend that money to go to an event to promote a sponsor. And it's not just you, it's like everyone does it. And it's like, so let me understand this straight.
Yeah.
That person is at an event promoting that brand, but they've paid their own hard-earned money for flights, for spending money for food, for accommodation, to then attend an event, wear the t-shirt or the skates or whatever to promote the brand. And then the brand will post it all over social media being like, we've got our guy there, he's representing us. And I'm like, he is representing you, but he's representing you out of his own back pocket.
Yeah.
And it's true for so many skaters. Like so many,
it really is.
So many of these skaters that you see at all these events, it's self-funded.
Yeah,
it's wild. Like imagine Nike like hitting up Jordan in the 90s, being like, "Man, can you just get yourself there?" And yeah, can you just get a taxi to the advert? Yeah, we're shooting the commercial there, and you do it. And if you can just make sure you're wearing the trainers, yeah, that'd be great. Yeah, like.
And that's yeah, you're right. That happens for a lot of people, and that's part of Valo was like that. And but John mentioned, if he could have done more, he would have. But the reality is like, yeah, there was like, for someone like me of my status on that, being part of that brand, like that was what the reality was. It was kind of funding my own adventures in and all with the intention of supporting this brand. And it's a really interesting thing to think about. I don't know what could be done to change that. I think people are trying to change that. I'm really lucky to be part of Rollerblade and a company that has treated me well and been able to travel me and take care of my needs while traveling, transportation, food, stuff like that, really accommodating. But, you see other brands and you hear things about other riders, and I don't know, it sucks. I would love to see all our guys taken care of. I think if skaters were taken care of to the highest level, let's say like you were made enough money to make a living wage, could you imagine how good everyone would be? Because you got to think about, like, a lot of these pro skaters work full-time jobs.
Yeah.
They're amazing at skating, working a full-time job and applying themselves to skating at the same time. Imagine if they took that 9 to 5, those 40 hours a week, and they just could put everything into rollerblading. Like, it makes me wonder who knows the level. I mean, we're still skating. People are still skating on the same level, but just like to be able to like devote your time and energy solely to like, your craft.
Yeah.
Would be a really interesting thing to see. You see these athletes, basketball players, football players, like their whole entire existence is devoted to being the best at that. And like rollerbladers are incredible, but Sunday rolls around, Monday you're clocking in and you're framing a house, or you're doing landscaping or going to the office. Like your mind and everything else is shifting into other directions. So it's interesting to think about that, but there's also a beauty in that. I think that, like, as adults, you are so passionate about this thing, that you are willing to just take your time and energy and really apply yourself, even though it's not paying the bills. You're not going to buy a house. You're, like, that's just the reality of it right now. There's not that kind of money, And so, but the fact that people are so, like, people who've been rollerblading for like 10 years or more, like, I got a lot of respect for all rollerbladers, but people who've been doing it for a while, it's like, you really genuinely love this.
Yeah.
Like, you're not in it for any other reason but just for the fact that you're so passionate about this thing, because you're not really getting anything outside of a sense of self-accomplishment by pushing yourself and trying tricks and, like that high, like sometimes you work on a trick on a Saturday and you get it, and that high will last you through Wednesday, or if it's really good, it might take you through the whole week. I don't know, but like, there's something really special and pure about rollerblading in that sense that, guys aren't making a living off it. So it's like, I know this sounds crazy, but it's like, I think that is a really beautiful thing, as well, as much as it is a bit of a conflict in our industry and something that's frequently talked about. And, people are trying to find some kind of solution. And I don't know if there is. It's like, like we were saying earlier, it's like, there's always, who knows what's popular and what's trending. Like, I can never keep up, man.
Yeah, I do know what you mean. Like, I do sometimes wonder, like, God, imagine the possibilities if, especially with all the knowledge that we have now of the history of our sport and what's happened with trends and like the popularity and then it waning, and like, would we be more appreciative now with given our history, or would we repeat the same mistakes and let, you know, companies come in, take the money and leave? Then there's the other aspect of it, like, yeah, like the fact that people are willing, that there's people putting out sections all the time but still have full-time job. There's people attending every major event but still have a full-time job, and like they're like still reserving a large portion of their life to this thing that's literally giving them nothing in return other than joy.
Yeah.
And you're like, that speaks to how special it is.
It's a beautiful thing. Not a lot of people have something in their lives that they're that passionate about. That's something that's essentially an extension of who they are. You know, you tap into this thing and it just kind of, nothing else really matters in that moment. You're just you're skating and that's what you're doing. And it's like not for a check. It's not for, it's just like I said before, it's like you put on skates, you're skating. There's no right or wrong way to do it. There's no playbook, there's no uniform, there's no coach. It's just like solely on you and what you choose to do with it, how far you choose to take it, and what you want out of it. You know, like some people do want to push it and see it grow in a way that we could, you know, make a career out of it. And some people are fine just getting out and hitting up Wednesday night skate and, you know, filming a little this and that and creating art with their friends. But it's interesting. My cat wants out. You mind if I just open the door? Go for her? Okay. What's up, little lady? All right. Hold on. All right. All right. Sorry about that. But yeah, it's interesting. It's an interesting thing, and I think it's kind of a beautiful thing, to be honest, especially at this point, as old as I am, being in my, I guess, late 30s now. Like, I'm just grateful for skating and all that it's like given to me and how it makes me feel. You know, like I went and skated yesterday, had a good time at the skate park, and then I connected with all those people I skated with. We went and sat on the river for like way too long, you know, got way too much sun, but it was just like those moments, you know, like you can't put a price tag on that stuff.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Just things you'll look back and be grateful for. And, you know, I don't know. It's skating. I don't know. It's
yeah, absolutely. I was talking to Kevin when he was over, and because he stayed with you, is that right? At one point?
Yeah, he stayed out here. Yeah.
And he was saying you were a bike messenger at that time? Was that right?
I am. Yeah, I still work for a bicycle courier company.
Right.
Yeah, it was kind of funny, you know, like I was living here for a while. I was in Montana. I just did like construction, worked on houses, and worked at the last couple of years I was in Montana. I worked at a tree nursery. You know, I was like being around plants, and I was doing like construction here and it makes good money. And I just got so tired of being tired from working. And
yeah, like if you're doing manual labor all the time, you must just be like, I don't want to skate after this. I'm spent. Yeah.
Exhausting. Yeah. And just, I don't know, wasn't really meshing very well with it. And I remember I like put my 2 weeks in and I bought a new bike and I went downtown. I ran into a buddy of mine and I was like, oh, what are you doing? He's like, oh, I'm working. I'm like, you're working? What are you doing? He's like, I'm a bike messenger. You want a job? And I'm like, I just bought a new bike. I just quit my job and now you're asking me if I want a job riding a bike. So I think I'm going to roll with this because somehow things have aligned in this way. And I jumped on it and it was so cool, like so freeing, and just being able to ride around and like be outside. And I just fell in love with it. And I still work for the company. I don't ride as much as I used to. I've kind of transitioned into kind of on the computer, getting work out to guys, but I still jump on the bike and bring tangible documents to guys to do this. And we switch, and I'll help when things get busy. But, you know, I used to ride like a ton, like 30 plus miles a day, 5 days a week, on my bicycle throughout the city. Now I ride a couple days a week going down there, and from my house to downtown is like 7 miles. So it's like 14-mile round trip, maybe tag on another 5 or 6 while I'm down there. So not as much riding as I used to do, but
yeah,
it's still pretty fun. I still enjoy being part of it. And so still doing that. I know Cabinet has that connection to being a bicycle courier too, or I think he did in Amsterdam or something.
Ooh, don't know. But so when you were in the thick of it and doing it all the time, was that not equally exhausting? Because San Francisco is not flat, and I feel like when people want stuff, they want their stuff now, and like I feel like that's a lot of rushing around and also expending a lot of energy. No?
Yeah, so it's like the thing of it is like I've always been pretty like could never really sit still. So it's like it balanced out well. Like I was riding around, but I felt better about what I was doing. Whereas like when I was working construction, I wasn't always hyped on what I was doing. I wasn't always hyped on the people I was around. In the end, they just kind of started to put more and more responsibility on me and more people. It was just, I just didn't like it,
Right.
And so it was like, when I rode my bike, I was like, I feel so good. Like the work is chill. I'm seeing people out and about. Like, and now like it used to be really crazy busy, before the pandemic, it was just nonstop. But now it's chilled out to the point where, I have a lot of downtime. Like it's actually a really chill setup. But yeah, when it was in the thick of it, I was definitely riding a lot. Yeah, there were definitely days where I'd be pretty fried. But I think a big part of the thing was I like to be physical. I like to move my body a lot. And that job allowed me to do that and not have the mental anguish of dealing with, unnecessary stuff with other people's drama and job site drama. And it was just like clock in, clock out. I'm a worker bee, bing, bang, bong, drop this, drop that. And I remember I'd go into the office and they always wanted me to work in the office after a couple of years of being there. And I kept denying it. They were like, we'll pay you more money, work in the office. I was like, I'm good. Like I feel good outside. I'd rather just keep moving on my bike. And I kept doing that. Now, I start here from my house in the mornings, which is cool. Like I'm able to get on the computer and do emails. Probably one of the only cities that I really do this in, I think San Francisco and New York and maybe like LA or Chicago are like one of the few cities that still do a lot of bicycle courier stuff, but not a lot of places that I know of in America or in the world that you can really work for a bicycle courier company and make it work like,
Yeah, definitely. So like I know a bunch of guys that are on rollerblade also have jobs. So I'm assuming, there's not, rollerblading money isn't really cutting it. But do the pro team guys like get a salary, or is it just like trip? You do guys, okay.
Yeah. So I'll just be transparent. Like, we get a monthly salary. It's fair considering like, where the industry's at, and it's, I feel like it's fair. I'm cool with it. I also recently kind of been taking on some more responsibilities with Rollerblade, helping Tom do various things like put in orders for like flow riders or ambassadors. And, we went on a trip recently and I helped him kind of organize that. And I'm always kind of just like, I usually like take initiative. I'm always just
getting
like
involved. Yeah, I'm getting that impression. Yeah.
So like, I've always been like we did a trip to Montana a couple of years ago, and like Tom's a busy dude, and the other guys, like everyone's all busy doing their thing, and I've always just been very like willing to be upfront and just communicate, things like if I have an idea, I'll voice it. And I got the idea going to Montana. I grew up there, but I thought, what a cool place to be able to connect with everybody. And it was kind of revolving around the release of Sean Keen's skate. And I was like, boom, I laid this thing out for Tom, or I asked the guys, like, what do you think of going to Montana and camping and skating and chilling, rivers, lakes, bunch of cool skate parks. and they were down, and I hit up Tom, and I was like, all right, here's my idea. I laid out like a rough itinerary, and I think I even went as far as like taking it upon myself to like know where everyone was flying out of, and got a rough estimate of like how much it would cost to fly everybody. Like I just did all this stuff. I was like, all right, I'm gonna throw this thing in his lap, and he's either just gonna say yes or no. It's not gonna be like, let me think about it. It's like, there's everything.
Yeah.
He was down, and I was like, oh fuck yeah, like,
let's it worked. Right.
It worked. And so I guess I've kind of always been that way. And then Tom, like, over the years is, we got a good friendship, relationship. We talk a lot. And I think he just was like, oh, throw some work your way. I trust you to not screw it up too bad, and it's been cool. Make a little extra money doing that as well. So yeah, between that and then working full time here in San Francisco, like I'm able to, obtain my needs and
make it work. Yeah.
Save a little on the side and have money for dog food and car insurance and shit. So
result. Are we ever going to see your name on a skate though? Because obviously the Sean Keane one was a long time in the works. I was kind of starting to question whether or not it was ever actually going to see the light of day. But now that they've got it up and running, and they've got that skate, and then they've got I'm not calling it whatever pigeon. I'm not doing that. It's great. The great team skate. Like, are there any plans for more pro skates? Like, surely if there is, you've got to be next in line, you would think.
Yeah.
I love how you're like, shit, don't ask me that question. That's the question I don't want.
Yeah, that we'll see how things unravel, there's definitely some pro skates and more skates, and just trying to dial in a skate that continues to work for everybody. And naturally, part of new skates comes, like, I guess, giving credit where credit's due. I don't know. I always think I'm pretty hard on myself. Like, I'm my own worst critic. So I'm like, it's a weird thing to talk about, but yeah, we'll see. I think there might be something there, but time will tell.
You didn't say no, so I can predict a white Cameron Talbott pro skate. Would that be?
We'll see. I like that idea. Yeah.
Right. If I remembered this right, were you sponsored by like Sick Urethane at one point?
I was, yeah. I was skating Kevin Little's company, Sick.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not anymore though, right?
No, I parted ways to be part of a company. It was Bloom.
Yeah. Right. So I did remember that, right? I was like, have I mixed this up in my mind? Right. Okay.
It was Transit originally, and it was something that Tori Tressiter and Kirill from Utah, they put together, and it kind of like hit, buzzed around and kind of made a buzz. And I think they came out with some wheels. They had like the Sean or the Keaton. Sorry, the Keaton Newsom.
The Keaton Newsom one, they did the Tony Woodland one, and Mick Casals,
yeah. And so they did those, and he had, when it transitioned to Bloom, I think Tori kind of detached himself from it, and then Kirill was running it, and he had some really good ideas, like doing these wheels in collaboration with certain kind of like charity organizations. Like, I think the Keaton one was connected to like the suicide hotline, and Tony's wheel was part of the BLM. I can't remember what mix was. And they had the idea to like do these different things. And I was actually supposed to get a wheel in the first batch, but I opted out because I wasn't really a big fan of the core. The core was like this kind of like plastic thing. Yeah. And I was like, I'll wait for the next one because I'm not a huge fan of that core. And it just kind of,
fizzled
out. So but now, Blank, we're making wheels. Like,
hydrogen wheels are very good. So if you're going to get stuck with a stock wheel, that's a pretty ideal situation. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's a great wheel. And Tom's trying to like, he ideally wants us to skate like the products he makes because like, they make frames and we've got a flat frame in the works that's going to be coming out I think within a month. Like it's such a process with all these parts. Like the thing with Rollerblade is like there's so many skates that they make, and like even though Blank technically only has 2 skates and a handful of parts, we're still in connection with a company that makes like 30 plus other skates. So it's a timely process, but I will say like the product and the quality is like really, really good. Like my Blank skates last forever. Like the soles take forever to wear through. And, it's a solid product. And they have that like backing of Rollerblade and the years of just dialing in what type of plastics and materials work and don't work, and having really cool people help improve products. Like we've Kyle Sull has helped us a lot, and so it's interesting. But yeah, the frames should be, I think, in the next month or so, Tom said, and the wheels. But yeah, hopefully we'll see more products, and that'll help us, like skating all the products helps us kind of figure out what works and doesn't work so that people can enjoy them. But the hydrogens have been a favorite. I've noticed like they kind of like snuck under the radar. Like people were like, oh, these are really good, but not everyone knew about them. Like when they had the camouflage ones.
Yeah. I remember Micki Toft used to rave about them, and then I tried a set, and I was like, "Whoa, okay, yep." He wasn't lying. Plus, Mike knows his stuff. Mike is an absolute blades like technology nerd. So if Mike says it's good stuff, it's going to work.
Absolutely, yeah. So exciting to see what Tom does, like as time goes by with developing new stuff, and he's got a couple other cool things in the works. So yeah, expect to see more skates. More and stuff.
I'll stop quizzing you about Rollerblade. I've only got one more thing I want to ask you about, and then I'll let you go. I want to know about bunkers, because I want to know whose idea it was. Because obviously you've worked with like a bunch of different people, like Hit It Wet, like working with Cavan, working with JP. Like, so who approached who and when? Oh, I want to do. I've got this concept. I want to do this.
Yeah. So the bunkers, I guess a little backstory. It's like bunkers were built along the San Francisco coastline and Marin County, which is the county just north of the Golden Gate Bridge and the Marin Headlands. They built up all these bunkers to kind of like defend this area back as far back as like way back, like World War I or before even that. Like,
all right.
So now they're still there. They're essentially like historical landmarks, but what's left, like they all have kind of these really unique like kind of banks, and just like they're very uniquely built, but they're also really rough and grimy and shitty, and they're out by the ocean, so that ocean air just eats up that concrete, makes it coarse. And I know they look like a lot of fun. Like I know a lot of people when they come here they want to go and skate them, and I take them, and I love the area because it's so beautiful. Like that's one thing Yvonne did a great job of, is capturing just the whole feel of those areas. They're just beautiful scenic areas. And so it's like, oh, you want to go hang out there and we could skate. It's a good place to do that. But I think people realize like they're pretty tough.
Like I can, as soon as I saw the concrete, because I remember like one of them's definitely featured in other videos, like one location, but I'm like, we have so much concrete like that in Scotland, and I know that you fall twice and your jeans look like cheese holes. So it's just like, and then it's the stuff it does to your skin is unreal. Yeah. So I'm like, looks fun, also looks really painful.
Yeah, it's definitely rough. But yeah, I've known Yvonne for a long time, we've worked on a lot of things together, but never anything just one-on-one. And I had always wanted to create something with Yvonne. And the pandemic was like in place, and I think it was 2020 or 2021. I think it was 2021. And we started to work on it. Like I just approached him as like, hey, let's make an edit. Let's do something at the bunkers, like kind of a location piece. And I was like, I know of some bunkers but also looking at Google Map, like there's a bunch that I've never been to, and I don't think anyone's ever skated, or I haven't seen them in any videos, you know? So it just seemed like a good chance to like end time, because he had time and I had time. And it just seemed like a good way to connect in a way that we always wanted to, and explore these areas. And, you know, here, like things weren't super busy, you know, it was kind of easier to get out. But then once everyone started getting out of their houses, it started getting crazy when everyone was traveling. But, so yeah, it just served as like a good chance to, we both had the time, we had the idea, and we just kind of came together and made it work. And it was basically just Yvonne and I, and Eric Garcia came out and took a lot of photos, which we're got a little something going on with those photos here in the future. But yeah, I think we only got together like 7 times to make that.
Okay.
And it was maybe the second or third time out, I hurt my knee. I was actually on a trick I landed in that edit. I hurt my knee on a 180, and I landed it, but it put me out for like over 2 months. I did something to my knee when I landed, the impact or something. Like I do this 180, like I kind of roll up on this bunker and then pop off and 180 down into this really shitty landing with like this very inconsistent surface. And I land, but you could kind of see, like, I usually, like, whenever I use the clip, like I always want my landings to be like solid, you know, like I don't like putting my hand down. I don't like lifting a foot up. Like I try to, that's one thing I just bugs me. It's like, I just want my landing to be like good. Yeah. And this landing, I see it every time, and I was like, oh, but it's in there because I couldn't do it again, you know? And I landed, and you could kind of see, my leg kind of just nothing crazy, just kind of, I don't land solid. It's something that I notice more because I experienced it, and people don't see it. But yeah, put me out for like over 2 months, and then I came back into it, and then we went out and we started venturing into these other bunkers on the north side of the bridge and finding all these spots that we'd never seen. Some of them were skatable, some of them weren't. Some of them were so overgrown, it was like the earth had just swallowed them back up, you know?
Right. So there was no option to get, like, I don't know, like go and get the tools and like make it work in anywhere, as in it was just so far gone.
It was gone, you know, right. Like it's just like beyond, they were like ruins, you know, like, but some of them were still like the ones that are more frequently visited, because they are like historical landmarks. So tourists like to go check them out, and they are all on the coast. So they all have amazing views. So it's pretty popular for tourists to frequent them, especially on the Marin side, because the Marin headlands in general it's a huge tourist attraction. It's like beautiful area. People flock there to just experience the headlands. It's like, I don't know if you're familiar with Marin, but
not really, no.
Probably. I mean, even growing up in Montana, there's beauty all around, but the headlands, there's something very unique and just beautiful, you know, like it's just, no coastline really like it, you know? So all these bunkers are on the coast, and the ones that tourists go to, they're a little more maintained in a way, like less overgrowth, you know, making functionable stairs for people to kind of get up on and stuff. And but yeah,
because some of them, like the one you did a line where you like fell a couple of times and then landed it looked like it was like right next to like residential properties, but then some of them look quite remote as well. So
yeah, that one was like that one's in San Francisco, and it's facing the bay. So most of them face the coast, like the open Pacific Ocean. Mm-hmm. That one you're talking about actually faced the bay. It actually has a direct line of sight to Alcatraz, the old prison, the island.
Right, okay.
So that one's a little different, but still nonetheless like right on the water. But yeah, it's like in this weird little area where there's like these like employee housing or something over there for like people that live in that area and work in that kind of park area. But yeah, most of the stuff was on the coast, and it was a lot of fun putting together. You know, Yvonne just did an incredible job like just made me look way better than I am. Like he's just incredible, you know, like he's yeah, really, really talented. And it was great to be able to make something with him and be able to look back on it like, you know, 10, 15 years from now and just feel proud.
Yeah.
To create something with somebody is always a magical thing, but to create something with like a friend that, you know, you've like hold near and dear, like somebody like Ivan I've known for 20 years, you know, like that is pretty special. So
yeah, it's a very good like time capsule. It's something that you could look back on and be like, I'm really proud of this. Like, yeah. And I love the money shot of the eagle basically like flying right in front of you at the start. I was like, that is gold. Like to capture that like something. It's not like you're filming it in the distance in the sky. It's literally going right in front of you. That is that's crazy.
That was an incredible shot. And yeah, he just nailed it, you know. And it really, we met up. I think he checked on the things and we met up 7 times to do that. So it seemed like it took a long time because the healing time in between, but yeah, it was a fun one. I was happy to make that one happen.
I was wondering when you filmed it because Ivan has a habit of holding on to things for a long time and then putting it out. But so it was as a couple of years old. Yeah, right. Okay.
Yeah,
that makes sense.
A couple years ago. During like the main part of the pandemic, and yeah, so it's a little old, but still hyped on it. And yeah. What was
the clip you're everyone's got like something in a part that they're like most proud of? Either it was like the hardest to get or they're just like the happiest with the way it turned out. So which one in there where you were like, yeah, that's the one. I like that.
I think it might be like the first clip. Like I do like a topsoil and I roll down and then like kind of wall ride this thing and I drop down to a pillar, like a little small pillar, and I 3 off it. Like that one just kind of set it off. That was like, I think that was maybe the first clip I got for it. I think that was the first day we started filming, and it just felt good to kind of break the ice and to get that one. Like I was like, I'm really hyped on this one. Like I don't know if people fully realize what's going on or how.
Oh no, that was one of my favorites because I feel like Ivan shot it so beautifully that you don't actually realize how dangerous it is. Like I was like, if he because it's basically like a 3-part trick, and I was like, if you mess up any part of that, you're falling off the side of it, and it's easily over his head height because when you three, you disappear out of shot. And I'm like, so that structure is obviously above your head. And I'm like, man, if you mess up, like just casually hopping from like one thing to the other, I'm like, that could have really hurt. Yeah. I love that one.
It was just a lot of connecting the dots. I was like really happy to finally get it. Like it just took me a minute to like really dissect the spot and be like, this is going there. And, you know, like you just have to be ready. Cause like, basically it's like, I could do the topsoil and roll down. And then if I didn't want to go to the next part, I could bail, you know, before I got to that little wall ride. But once you were on the wall ride, it's like, you have to go. And I don't know if you could see, but it's like after the wall ride, there's like a space, a little channel. You have to gap past that just to get down to the pillar and land on the pillar like perfectly. And then I think I just threed. I wasn't even planning on 3. I just threed. I was like, okay. But yeah, when I got that, I was just like, oh, fuck yeah. Like, I'm so pumped that I got that one. It took a while of just figuring it out in my head and trying to connect, you know, what my mind was thinking to what my body could do. And it turned out like better than I had expected. So that one was cool. And, there was a few other, the roof, the very end, like when I do the roof to topsoil, that one was cool. I worked on it a little bit, but it was just really hard because there's so many plants, and I didn't really like the landing because it was like I kind of land and then just like I roll on this little bit of concrete and then I kind of like stumble into all the ice plants. And I was like, I wanted so badly to land and carve to the side, but I don't know if people can tell, but that rail is like
steep.
It is steep. It is like I just couldn't get myself to like land in my brain. I'm like, oh, I'm gonna freaking finesse it and I'm gonna carve. Like, how do you go down a steep rail and carve 90 degrees right off the, it's just
No, it's
so
driving. It's driving you into the ground.
yeah. So it was like Yvonne was just like, dude, that was perfect, But part of me is like, I hang out with Danny all the time, and he's like a perfectionist. Like I've seen Danny film so many things that he doesn't even use. Like, and I think part of that has rubbed off on me, especially recently. So I'm just like, oh, it could be better. But that's just, working with different people brings out different parts of you. And sometimes like, skating, it's like you take what you get in the moment, that's kind of part of it as well. It can't always be perfect. And a lot of times it's not going to be what you thought it was in your head, and that's just kind of the nature of the beast. That's just, skating. But other times like that 361, like you get it and it's like, that was better than I could have hoped. That was great.
Right. What's so obviously you filmed you've filmed with a bunch of guys. Like what's exclusive to Ivan that when you're filming with him is like unlike filming with anyone else? Because obviously different filmers have different traits or approaches, or like just working with them is just a unique experience as opposed to working with other people, because it feels like he's got I feel like there's certain standards he set for himself in terms of just like, even when he just refuses to use like copyrighted music, he's like, I'm either going to get the rights or I'm going to use music that doesn't have that. He's like, I feel like he's got certain rules for himself that not every other filmer has. So yeah, I'm curious to know what it was like filming with him as opposed to like the other guys. Like, I don't know, JP or like Taylor or like any of those guys.
Yeah, Yvonne, he's professional, like he's just, not that these other guys aren't, but like there's this thing with Yvonne, like the equipment he uses and just the way he goes about it and the setup and his vision. And he's like, the way that edit was, it's like he takes you, it's like a love letter in a weird way. It's like a ode to San Francisco bunkers. Like there's something, he captures the feeling and the energy very differently, and I think he has that in mind as he's working. It's like bigger than just skating, even though it is skating. Like, I don't know, this is just my take on it. He might be like, I don't know what you're talking about, but he has like a very unique perspective on like how he films things, how he edits them, how he wants them to come across. And I think just, like if I was to describe his style, it's just professional. Like he's dialed, but then there's little things on the side of that where like I've known him for a long time and I've stayed with him over the years and knows family and stuff. And there was one moment, one day he like, cause that camera he's got is heavy. He lugged this thing up. He's like, he's like, look at this. You should do this, that, and the other. It's going to look sick. And I was like, I kind of felt like I was forcing it. I was like, dude, I don't want to do this. Like, there's nothing here that I'm like feeling. Like, I'm not going to force it. And he was kind of bullying me. He was kind of like, he's like, like, he's like, well, dog, what are you talking about? Like, I lugged this camera. He's like, better do this shit. And, but like serious, but also like not, but also known each other forever. So he can totally do that. And I remember saying like, dude, I'm going to tell your mom, dude, like you're bullying me. He's like, don't be so soft, like, come on, do it, like, and Garcia's there just laughing his ass off. And it's just like, so yeah, there's that connection of just being friends for so long, that, it was fun. But we both, we didn't do it for anything in particular. We thought about giving it to Rollerblade, but I think it was cool to just like do it for us, like just, and that's what I wanted in the beginning is like, I just wanted to do something with Yvonne. I didn't really care what it went to. I just wanted it to be out and I wanted to be able to like look back and see it and kind of mark that one off the list,
Definitely.
So, Yvonne's just incredibly professional when it comes to filming, and all the other guys too. Like, Taylor has his own formula, his little wild style, you've seen Hit It Wet. Like he's got his thing, like he's he's a wild boy. You know, we've had some really good times filming those movies and just getting around San Francisco. And he has a way, like his wild demeanor kind of blends with San Francisco well. So he's able to kind of like take you on a ride through San Francisco, and it's, you know, it rings true to what this city is. And, you know, and then you got like JP, like JP's got his own style, and, you know, working with him has been super fun. That dude's so nice, you know. And
I've spoke to JP and hung about him a little bit. He comes across as being a really good dude.
Yeah, he's a super nice guy. And, you know, I met Justin Broskow through him. Like we just started that project in LA, and I met Justin for the first time there. And Justin's a interesting guy. I love him to death. Like he's
a character. He is a serious character.
And he's been there like the whole time. We met up in LA, we met up in Miami, we met up in New York and San Francisco. So it's been a series of little meetups in random cities. And I'm really happy with what we got so far. And I think we just need to meet up one more time, and kind of that'll be, you know, hopefully enough to get it done. But yeah, working with JP, he's just so chill and down. And, you know, when I'm in New York, he's super accommodating. When he was here in San Francisco, he was just down for whatever, easygoing, just, yeah, let's do it. Let's get out. Yeah. You know, like hyped. And, you know, and it's different, you know, working with him and Yvonne, it's like kind of one-on-one minus Broskow doing there. But like when I'm working with Taylor, like we've done projects, just me and him, but like those Hit It Wets, like the crew was there.
Yeah.
So it's like the dynamic of the crew plus the filmer, like that's a whole different world. And, you know, we filmed Hit It Wet again during the pandemic. I sketched the Golden Gate Bridge. And then right after the Golden Gate Bridge sketch, like we went in, like everyone was at home and the city was quiet. People were leaving the city. People were staying indoors, and we lasted like 2 weeks of that. And we were like, all these hills we've been looking at, all that, you know, no traffic.
Yeah. It's like, yeah, it's that thing where you're like, well, we're meant to be sensible, but this is like the perfect opportunity. This is like this, there's not going to be another time like this. So yeah.
Yeah. So we definitely took advantage of the of that time, and just, you know, knowing that there was probably never going to be another time like that potentially in our lives that offered that situation. And, you know, we took advantage of it, and, you know, the movie came out, and it was, that's a cool one looking back on that. Just kind of, you know, I think we filmed most of that, like the parts, like pretty quick within the first couple months. And then we just kind of waited to get more from other people as people felt comfortable to come out. But I remember I did this gap on a hill. It was like, you know, a hill going down, there's sidewalk, and then an alley, and I gapped from sidewalk to sidewalk. And we were filming that. And it was like one of the first few days filming that video. And I remember everyone was in their houses glued to their windows because they'd all been inside, and no one had really, and it dawned on me, like, we're like the greatest bit of entertainment these people have had. And they were all hyped, and they were just all watching us bomb the hill from their windows. And, you know, there's still this scare that everyone had of COVID. And, you know, so I understood. But that was a pretty, that was a moment I'll never forget, you know, seeing these people.
Yeah. Because like they're basically forced, like, life is stopped. They're basically forced to stop and pay attention to what you're doing, as opposed to like they'll be rushing about their lives and just so happen to notice. But like they're literally in a moment where they're like, oh, this is actually giving us a break from like what's going on. We can enjoy this. Yeah, that's crazy.
That was cool. And just being able to skate these spots. Like I remember hitting this one hill bomb that I was like, oh, like there's a lot of them that we just couldn't hit before, you know. And so yeah, that one was special. And you know, I'm hoping we can make another one. I know a lot of things have changed since that one, you know, like people's lives have kind of moved in different directions. Like we're all still cool and we all hang out, but it just hasn't quite aligned to all get together to make another one. But I think there's a plan to do so. But on top of that, we've all been working on our own things. Danny's got a lot of cool things in the works, so you'll be excited about that. You know, some more Danny Malm stuff. I've got stuff going on. Everyone's kind of doing their own thing. Taylor does a lot of stuff too. Like even though
He's a busy man. Yeah.
Those hit it wets really kind of allowed him to, like, people saw that, and it's like, Mesmer's hitting him up to do stuff. Rollerblade does stuff with him. I think he's done stuff with some roller skate companies, like, so it's all, like I said, it's like change. Once again, change is the only constant. So it's like things are changing, you're moving with it. And I think I'd like to say that we'll probably get another one happening, another hit it wet. I'd like to see that in the future, but maybe this time it's more of a group effort, especially since Danny has a camera now and he's getting more familiar with things. And I think it's a lot of pressure for one person to make a movie, and it's a responsibility. So to have a supporting cast and everyone helping filming and multiple cameras, like, I think that's the way that this next one would, if it happens, would happen. So
nice. Okay. Right. I've taken up enough of your time today. I'll let you go, but I want to know where's the last location you're going to film with JP, and when are you hoping to have that part out? Because I totally forgot about that until you mentioned it.
Yeah. Well, I think I'm going to try and get him to come back out here to San Francisco. There's some things I'd like to get into that, but I'm also, I don't know, it's hard to say it right now. I think we're leaning toward just a quick 4-day weekend in San Francisco,
right?
Just to get a few more things that we missed while he was out here the first time. But yeah, the goal is to get it done after the next meeting, and then who knows, maybe we can premiere it at a Blade Cup in November, or I don't know, whatever happens, just as long as we are able to connect and knock it out. I also know JP, he's busy with a lot of other things, but I talked to him last week, and he sounds like he's about ready to get it done.
All right. Okay. That's promising. I like it. Right. Right. I've taken up way too much of your Sunday. I apologize for this taking so long.
No, it's been great. It's been great chatting with you. Thanks for having me on. I've, been a fan of what you're doing and getting the word out. Like, you always ask interesting things and shed light on guys that, we don't always see from our these things. So
this is true. Yeah. Well, I'll leave you to it. I'll let you enjoy the rest of your Sunday. And yeah, thanks again for taking the time to do it.
Yeah. Thanks for having me on.
Hopefully speak soon.
Care.
Bye.
Yep. Good. Peace.